In today's episode, I interview Daniel Harold Fitch. He's a revert to Islam, and he is the founder of Natural Leaders Media TV on YouTube and on other social platforms as well. He's been doing this for well over 10 plus years at this point, and he's actually done quite a few things in the entrepreneurial space. And you can see it in this interview that I have with him today. I hope you enjoy the pod. Now on to the show. Welcome to the pod, Daniel. Tell us a little bit more about Natural Leaders Media, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you've had some stratospheric growth in terms of on your YouTube. You went from I think 100, 200 subscribers into 1,000 subscribers in a matter of days.
Yeah.
Maybe you can dive in a little bit into your background, what you've done in the past, and what's led you up to this point. I guess let's start there.
Let's start there. Well, thank you, Daniel, for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We've been, I guess, not even gonna say missing each other, but the timing now has aligned.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And yeah, just another Daniel, another voice of Daniel is refreshing.
Of course.
I get, a lot of people look at me like it's a Christian name, and I feel like it is a biblical name.
It is.
But the meaning of our name, obviously, as you know, is God is our judge, or Allah is our judge.
Absolutely.
So that's the best.
Yeah, I agree. And
in my opinion. But so Natural Leaders Media, starting with the name, I would say natural is because I feel like I'm a natural helper. I'm a natural servant of God. I'm a natural servant of my people, my community. That's what I do. Leaders, I believe we are all leaders in our own right. I believe we all have greatness in us. And media is spread love, man. Spread love and spread the narrative of our people, the correct narrative, if you will. So I've been doing this over 20 years, man. Over 20 years. Within media, I would say the arts and things of that nature. I started as a rapper or MC.
So what was your MC name?
My MC name is Buck.
Okay.
Buck, the absolute truth. I always wanted to make sure I told the truth. I grew up in an era where, people used to say they got guns and they got this. They ain't have none of that stuff, man. It was just stuff to make their image be tough. I grew up I'm a 90s guy, so I grew up in that whole thug era and blah, blah, blah. But nonetheless, my format was telling the truth about my everyday, daily journeys. So started there. I go back to Video Music Box, maybe before your time. Video Music Box was a video show. The host, VJ Ralph McDaniels. And I used to always match up the lyrics with the visuals. For some odd reason. If they say you're walking to a store, I want to see somebody walk into a store. If they say I touched a plant, I want to see somebody touch a plant. I don't want to see somebody in a bathroom and they're talking about plants. It's the visuals for me needed to match up. And that's when I was like, I want to do that. I want to shoot stuff. So I got into cameras. I got a little flip camcorder with the 8mm spin wheel. That was my first camera. And yeah, it's been on ever since. I think I danced around your question. Did I answer it?
No, you sort of answered it. So
Okay.
that was your childhood and growing up in the 90s to a degree. And then I guess, did you attend college here in Georgia or?
I did. Well, I'm from New Jersey.
Okay.
Shout out to Roselle, New Jersey, 07203. But I started at Delaware State University, which is a HBCU in Dover, Delaware. That was in 91, bro. I stayed there for a year and a half, and I moved back home. And I remember my dad giving me that speech. To live here, you either got to work or go to school. If not, you got to get out. I'm like, how does that even work? If I'm not doing either one of them, I got to get out? What's that? That don't make sense. But I guess the whole premise was get a job or keep it pushing, bro. You got to do something constructive along those lines. And then I ended up coming here, and I finished at Georgia State University in 2015. I went back when I was like 36, and I finished with a African American Studies, film and video degree.
Oh, mashallah. So were you born Christian or were you born Muslim? Like, walk us through a little bit of that journey too, because I'm guessing that's also in line with everything during that time, probably.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, definitely born Christian. I grew up Baptist church. I even sung in the choir. Went to Sunday school and all of that. I feel like I got initially put onto Islam by my first real girlfriend. We started dating, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, while we're dating, she took her shahada, and she told me we had to stop fornicating. And it's like, what's going on? What do you mean we had to stop fornicating? And at that point, I did start studying and everything. And when I was like 20, 21, I was this close to taking shahada. And I wasn't ready. You know, even though I really, in hindsight, I was, but I wasn't, because I let the dunya creep into my mind like I still couldn't live the life I wanted to live while being Muslim. Like I thought it was super strict, like you couldn't do this, couldn't do that, couldn't do this and that. Yeah, so.
Wow. So I guess... So that was when you were in your 20s, and then let's walk a little bit further up. What actually caused the actual conversion or the switch over to Islam?
Yeah. So I was at Ebenezer Baptist Church. I can remember having a conversation with my mother where she was like, you not need to find God, but you need like a stable base. Like, what are you doing? Like, my mother was hella supportive when I was gonna take shahada back when I was like 20, 21. She loved my girlfriend. So she just wanted me to have a spiritual grounding. It didn't matter, you know. So I went to this church, and Ebenezer Baptist Church, and I can remember, man, Pastor Raphael Warnock, he goes, you know, they do a thing in the Christian church where it's like all heads is bowed. It's like an altar call, right? So they say, hey.
So when you say altar call, would that be like our Jummah khutbah? Similar to, or what exactly? What would be the, I guess, is Muslim equivalent?
Yeah, it's nothing. It's not in a bad way. I feel like it's more of this is their time where they invite people to join the church.
Oh, okay.
I don't even think we have that in Islam.
There is. It's called, some people call it like Jamiatul Ulama, or like a group of scholars that actually, no, it's not Jamiatul Ulama. It's almost like similar to what the Mormons do, right? Where they go out to certain parts of the world and they try to invite people to Christianity. In Islam, there are people who do that. I forget the specific name for it because my cousin does it in Pakistan. So, like, I have heard of it. I just didn't. I guess I didn't know that there was a name for it.
Right. Well, I've for all the masjids I've been to, I've never seen like an invitation to take shahada. Like, I've seen people take shahada, but it's usually on there because actually the imam usually always says, "Are you doing this for you?" Like, before anybody takes shahada, like nobody nudged you, you know. So nonetheless, they altar call. They say all heads are bowed. You're bowing, and he said, "Oh, do you raise your hand if you have a church home? Raise your hand if the church is close to you. Raise your hand." A series of kind of questions, and he's like, "Oh, if you raise your hand, come down and join." And he says, "Don't worry, if I didn't see you, God did." And I was like, I don't like that. Like, I felt like, don't pressure me. You know, this is not something that it felt like trickery to a degree. You know what I mean? And I got up and left. And that next day, I bumped into this brother in my building, Shafiq, and he's like, he's Muslim, and he just started talking to me and different things, and the next thing you know, on campus or at Georgia State, a bunch of Muslim brothers that I began to, hang around, and next thing you know, I took my shahada. I took my shahada at Georgia State.
Mashallah.
Yeah, at Georgia State.
So this was in the 90s.
This is no.
20.
This was 20. I took my shahada 2011, April 1st, 2011.
So you did it at the Georgia State MSA?
Yeah. Yep,
So wow. So then we would have actually seen each other then at that moment in time.
Potentially.
Wow.
Yeah. You went to Georgia State?
Yeah, I went to Georgia State.
Wow. Okay.
So there was Andy and a bunch of other guys there too. So Andy, let's see, Inam Jamil, Akbar Ahmed, and then Abdurrahman Darvish.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
So I mean, like these guys, they were always there at the MSA as long. I was with them usually.
Okay.
So we probably did see each other, just didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm thinking you do look familiar. Yeah,
Back then I wasn't so bearded.
Yeah, right. I either. Actually, I probably had a big beard then. I used to cut it. Yeah, but yeah, that's that. Wow, that's insane. I got married there too.
Oh really?
Yes. What's the brother name? Imam
Yahya?
Mufti Samir.
Mufti Samir Wahid.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
wow.
yes,
So
yes,
he's
yes.
the one that initiated your nikah, basically.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Because I remember at that time, I don't think he had a masjid at all in Atlanta. When it was with his brother, his brother and him, along with Ahmed Sabri, they all three of them used to like just be in one spot. At least when I met them, and then usually for our Jummah khutbah, we always had Yahya Saeed.
Yeah. The kind of heavy set guy. With
Yeah,
the beard.
he used to be heavy set. He's not heavy set anymore.
Really? Nice. Good.
No.
Good for him.
But yeah, that's amazing. Like I didn't realize our paths crossed at that time. I was like, wait a second, what?
Absolutely. That really. We had a whole basketball team and everything. We called it the Dean Squad. It was on there. Yeah, that was. That was. I love Georgia State. Georgia State opened me up, even as a.
So then you probably also met like Salman Hussein and
familiar.
Salman Mogul. Both of these guys were heavily into that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't so much. I was more like, hey, how do I do business? That was my obsession. It still is my obsession. And it just came out in podcast form more so than anything else.
Sure.
So, all right. So we spend a little bit of time in the early 2000s. 2010s, I should say. You're at Georgia State. You get you go from Christianity to Islam at Georgia State. And that's 2011. Walk me through 2011 to the creation of Natural Media.
Wow. Yeah. So, 2009 going into 2010, I was working as a mortgage loan officer. My background is actually in real estate and mortgages and whatnot. So I was working for this company called American Equity Mortgage, and I had a production meeting from hell, bro. So this is like.
So when you're saying production, that means the number of units closed?
Exactly.
And
exactly.
Just out of curiosity, how many bips or basis points were you paid on each of those deals?
You know the lingo.
Yeah.
I want to say at that point, it started, obviously, at that point, the recession was hitting. Mortgage industry, real estate really was tanking. I want to say 1.75 was.
So 1.75% or 175 bips.
Right.
Got it.
Exactly. And that, they tightened that up. I think it's down to like 1.25 now. Well then I'm not in tune right now. So during this meeting, it was like mid-December, something like that. My birthday is December 29th. I'm gonna say that just so for the backstory. And at this meeting, my manager was just crashing me, bro. He's crashing me. He's like, "Oh, Fitch, your numbers suck and this and that, blah 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 blah." I mean, he's tearing me apart. Like, I wanted to jump over this table so bad, man.
Was that in front of a group of people? Or
Yeah,
was it, oh wow!
all my coworkers. I could see like my good buddy Mike Griff. He's over there like he's like, your friend is like, he's like, almost like, yo, bro, what you want to do? You want to get this guy? Like, and we're all, suited and booted. Yeah. And it's like, I can feel my eyes watering. I'm like, no, I'm not going to cry. And I'm like, yo, quit. I'm like, no, then I'll get kicked out of my place. What do I do? Like, I want no money. What do I do? Like, I can't do that. Yo, forget this dude, man. This is the talk that's going on in my head. Like, I'm not even, at this point, I don't even hear what he's saying. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He's talking, but my mind is totally somewhere else. And I went back to my office after that, and I cried like a baby in that office. And it was like, dude, I got to make a change. I can't live like this. So I started concocting my little plan, and I just so happened to, even that same day, after that meeting, I asked this guy, my birthday is December 29th, I said, yo, can I get off like the 28th or whatever so I can ride all the way out the whole New Year's, right? He's like, did you just not hear me in the meeting? Your numbers suck. No, you can't. Well, you know what, Fitch? If you close, and this is how I used to talk. Oh, he used to burn me up. It's like, if you close something, if you close that Smith deal you got, then yeah. The Smith deal wasn't even a good
But I mean, the mortgage industry during the November, December timeframe, even terrible. January is horrible. So then horrible. Why would you, just go ahead and take off, right?
You would think.
Yeah.
You would think. But this guy was obsessed with me for some reason. I even found out some stuff later, like that, he was filtering leads away from me. So like my team member, like my Tommy and Mark, they were closing deals left and right. But that's because my manager was filtering those deals to him. We had a thing, we were hot, we'll call them hot leads, and they would be call-ins. So if somebody hears the advertisement on the radio, that's what they was known for. American Equity Mortgage was their little jingle. So if somebody would call in, that's a hot lead, right? Oh, if you call in, if you want a mortgage today, it's a hot lead.
Yeah, of course.
They want a mortgage. So I didn't get those leads.
Oh, wow. So they wouldn't award you any of those leads in the round robin, basically?
Exactly.
That is so horrible.
Terrible.
I mean,
all my leads came from my referrals. I had a very strong referral base. Because I was an investor. I'm still an investor. Investor. So a lot of people would come to me from that world wanting mortgages and whatnot. So nonetheless, to wrap this story up, so that same day, all this happened. I asked for a day off. I got chewed out in the meeting. I go downstairs to the lunchroom cafeteria, and I bite into a piece of gristle, and I crack my back tooth. So now I got this back tooth. I'm like, oh, my God, I'm in pain. Well, I'm not in pain yet, but I can feel the air hitting it, the nerve or whatever. So I go get it extracted. I come back to work. I actually close a deal. Well, I took an app with the cotton in my mouth. So go home. Fine. Wake up in horrific pain. Novocaine wore off. I call out, right? So I call out, but I still am checking on my deal. But it's weird. When I'm calling, Tommy, my assistant manager, was like, yeah, hey, Daniel. I'm like, yeah, I'm checking on the Smith deal, blah, blah, blah. They were supposed to send in XYZ docs. He's like, yeah, okay, yeah. He was acting very weird, right? He hangs up. So he's like, yeah, man, you might want to call Anthony, my manager. So I'm calling him all day. He didn't pick up, not once. And the assistant Faja, when I finally got her, she's like, Danny, I don't know what's going on. Your log is not in the system no more. I'm like, oh, shit. Okay. So next day, go to work, and as I'm walking past the manager's office, I see a box with all my stuff in it, right? So, at that point, though, Daniel, I was, relieved. I was like, okay, all right. So as I walked by, my manager's like, Fitch, come on in here. I'm like, what's up, man? He's like, yeah, man, da-da-da. So I see. All right, good job. Went and shook his hand. It was like, all right, peace, I'm out. You know what I mean? And it was really a relief. You know what I mean? So from there, got unemployment, and I was like, dude, I'm not doing anything I don't want to do ever again in life. You know what I mean? And I enrolled at Georgia State. I started there that summer. I started as a kinesiology major because I'm still an athlete, and ended up changing it to African American Studies, Film and Video, to really learn my own identity, to be honest with you. And that's what African American Studies did for me. So yeah, so from there, that's when, I don't even remember the Digital Aquarium at Georgia
Digital
State.
Aquarium. Yeah, where they had, I think in one of the buildings, it was right next to the library, right?
Yeah, well, you can go there and use computers. They had like the Macs and the PCs and whatnot, but you could rent cameras there. They used to rent the Canon T2i and the T3i. That was a big deal then, man, because that Canon was nice. So yeah, I started renting a camera and doing stuff, and in 2011, I LLC'd Natural Leaders Media.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I just want to rewind for just a brief moment. Like, just out of curiosity, what was your best year in mortgage sales? Like, how much did you close in top line mortgages? Because that was just a question I had, and sort of ended the story there. I just wanted to know that answer. And then, who was your? I guess, how did you start up the company? Like, where the impetus or the idea of it come from? So if you could answer that first question, and then let's move on to that.
Mortgage sales. So I feel like one year I got an award I was a top producer. Wow. Sorry, I'm lying, Daniel. I want to say I got close to about 7 million in revenue.
$7 million in top line mortgage closes.
Yeah.
Got it.
You know, the average, that was okay. The average loan amount that we were doing was like anywhere between 150. I think the biggest one I may have closed came in at about 400,000.
Wow.
But I was known for helping people consolidate. Like, I can remember I saved this lady like $1,100 a month, and that was
Mortgage
like,
rates at the time were probably in the 4s and 3s.
horrible. No. When I started there, I was there only 2 years. When I started there, rates were like between 6 and 7-ish. And then by the time I left, man, it was up like damn near 11.
Wow.
Yeah, 10 and 11.
Really? So this is like the early.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's gonna make me fact check that now.
It's all good. It's all good. I mean,
but yeah. So that was even a stickler with me sometime, because unless I can save them money, but there was times that people have good rates, and it's like I would have to tell them like, no, this doesn't really make sense for you. You know, you're going from a 6.5 to a 9. You're saving money overall, but you're putting money back on the back end of your loan. So in actuality, you're not. It might get you out of this bind right now, give you some extra cushion as far as money is concerned, as far as capital is concerned, but it's not.
but I mean, $7 million, that's a lot. I mean, like that would be putting you in the top 5% of mortgage loan officers, I'm guessing.
I had that one good year.
I mean, that was similar in my case. I mean, I was also a mortgage loan officer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I closed about, I think my best year was around $15 to $16 million in top line. But my average ticket was around $333,000. So, I mean, it's the higher dollar amount.
Absolutely.
Right? If it's double 150, then it would be very similar then.
Yeah.
Right? So I know the industry very well.
Good. Yeah. I like that industry, to be honest with you. I made my most money in that industry, more so from real estate investments. You know, that was.
I think the thing I hate most about that particular industry is that you have to keep hunting and hunting and hunting and hunting. It's just a never-ending hamster wheel. Whereas if you're an investor, you're dealing with things a little bit differently, right? Oh, I'm holding onto the asset. It's generating a cash flow. It then pays it back to me. I can relax, right? Whereas if you're just a straight up loan officer, you're just high strung. I gotta close, and I gotta close this month, right? Because you won't get that payout until maybe the following month.
Exactly.
Or if you don't close, so like there can be a huge delay. If you close the beginning of the month, you won't get that payment for about a month and a half in some
Right.
cases. So
Right.
depending on who you're working with. In this case, I was working with guidance. So, but okay, wow.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't. Well, I had an idea of what it would be. I mean, why did I go into sales? Right, it was to build a sales skill set. My actual background's in finance.
Okay.
So corporate finance, and then transitioning into actual sales, totally different ball game. Yeah, I understood the financing component of it, but then when you add in the sales, it's like, okay, financial sales is a bit different, right?
Way different.
And understanding the psyche of a human being and where they're coming from, and then understanding, oh, this makes sense in your scenario, and this does not make sense in your scenario. I completely understand that.
Yeah.
It's like I've been through it. I did it for about 3 years.
Okay.
So I mean,
Okay.
I completely understand. Okay, so now let's jump into the formation of natural media leaders. When you set up the LLC, like, did you have the thought in your mind beforehand, like a couple months, or was it years? Was it in your mind? Was it gestating? Like, where did the original idea of it come from?
So I sold products for my cousin. She has a brand. Shout out to my cousin Dawn. She has a brand called Puka Pure and Simple, which is a handmade bath and body product brand. Shout out to Dawn.
And
But this is one of her products. But so it's everything is handmade, right? All it's a family owned company. So my cousins, my aunts, they all help her work. She's had it since 2000. So wow, she's coming up on 25 years. That's insane.
And that's a long time to have a business, actually. And
Wow.
if you have a business for that long, your customer base is probably grown over
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Now, if you just dump advertising dollars behind it, or even social media marketing in general, organic or paid, it can grow like crazy right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, her thing is she has multiple sclerosis, so she couldn't put anything onto her skin. So she came up with these different ingredients that are all natural. So I was distributing it here in Georgia or Atlanta. So I had Natural Leaders Distribution.
Got it.
And all I did was I did a DBA and changed that Natural Leaders Distribution to Natural Leaders Media. So that was already in place, and that also gave my company that tenure, or if you will, since I've been in the system since when was that? Yeah, 2011. I didn't get my first check for Natural Leaders Media until 2016. Where as though I had a contract with Clayton County, and that was my first recurring contract.
How did you get the contract? Because that's out of the scope for so many people's minds. Like, how do I get a contract for my business?
Right.
It's like that's an interesting topic to dive into. Let's dive into it.
Yeah. That was relationships. That was 100% relationships. That was I was asked to work. That's a great question. Who originated that? How did I get with? There was a brand called We Show Up. We Show Up was they had a pilot program where they were looking to help underserved. I can't even say teens. I think the age bracket was from like 19 to about 30 years old. So We Show Up, they were supposed to teach people how to maneuver in the industry and whatnot. So they had different speakers come in and whatnot. So I was working with that. And then next thing you know, Clayton County asked me to refilm their, when the speakers came in and whatnot. And I leveraged that into a contract where it became recurring. So it's like anything they do for We Show Up and otherwise, I would be the person to film it.
Got it.
So I would say relationships. Relationships is the key to most things. You know what I mean? Most business ventures come from a relationship that you've made.
Hey there, listeners. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Diary of a Muslim Entrepreneur. I just want to take a quick moment to thank you for being here. Now, here's something surprising. Did you know that over 95% of the people watching or listening right now aren't actually subscribed? Isn't that so crazy? That means for every 1,000 of you who are watching this, 950 of you guys are not subscribed. Subscribing is super simple. Just hit the notification bell down below. It makes a huge difference here for the team at Dome. When you hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel, you're helping us grow, which means we can bring in bigger and more inspiring guests, and guests who can answer some of the questions that you might actually have. It allows us to produce higher quality videos and make the show the best it can possibly be. The more support we get, the more we can give back to you with even better content. And here's something special. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're doing a giveaway for a brand new set of 2nd gen Apple AirPods Pro that are right in my hands right now. So if you wanted to want a chance to win and help us hit that milestone, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, share it, engage in the comments down below, and follow us on Instagram. You'll find all the links right down in the show notes. If you're really enjoying the show, consider becoming a sponsor of the show. Your support directly helps us keep these powerful stories coming and allow you even to reach a community of like-minded Muslims and entrepreneurs. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, engage in the comments down below, follow us on Instagram, wherever you find your podcast, and leave us a review. And maybe you'll be the lucky winner of those AirPods Pro. Now let's get back on to the show. So what's the best way, and maybe this is another good question, how do you create relationships? Like, walk me through that process, because for some people, it's going onto a Discord channel and just chatting to people. That's a relationship for them. For some people, it's like meeting in person, like we're meeting in person, absolutely, right? And for some people, that's easier, right? So what's your process to create a relationship?
Yeah, well, my process, this is easier for me. Face to face.
No, I agree. For me too, because I'm an extrovert by nature.
Okay.
And so for me, it's talking to people, chatting with them via text, and doing both the in-person as well as phone and texting.
Sure.
Combination of those things actually helps me more than me just simply texting people.
Yeah. Well, networking, going to networking events, not being shy about anything. Hey, here's my card. Just striking up conversations. Not being fearful of rejection.
Of course.
There's a book I read called Fanatical Prospecting, and it says, by Jeb Blount, and what it says is, anytime you call somebody or what have you, you're interrupting them, right? And you know this from sales. Yeah. So it's like, get to the point. So now it's like, hey, Daniel, how you doing? I'm great. I say, the reason I'm calling you, like I'm getting right to it, But yeah, so to answer your original question, I would say you network, shake hands with people, introduce yourself, and even if you are introverted or what have you, shy, most people, especially people like myself, if you're shy and you approach me, I respect you just for that, because I know that's not easy for some people. For me, I have no problem. Like, if you say, hell no, get the hell out of here. Okay, great. Have a nice day.
Absolutely.
Like, that doesn't affect me personally. Another thing I will say is, don't take anything personal. Nothing. Like, literally, if somebody doesn't punch you, don't take it personal.
I mean, it's always like in sales, right? It's always a no until you get a yes. Yeah, you're getting closer to that yes at some point, right? Yes. And if that means they're not ready today, they might be ready maybe 3 months from now. Or if they're not ready from 3 months from now, they might be ready in 9 months or 10 months or so on, right? So it's just sales at the end of the day. At least that's what it comes to in my mind. But I guess that's an interesting process, because like for some people, they don't know. Especially the newer generation is what I would feel. Right? Yeah. That they're way more engaged online than they are in person. So they'll attend like Zoom calls and they'll like just sit there quietly, or they'll go to Discord, or they'll join an IRL chat, or be on Twitch. They'll just be watching stuff versus actually having a voice, hearing a voice, right?
Yeah. Me, like I said, I'm old school. Now, I feel young as everything, but I'm old school. So it's like I'm gonna make sure I'm in the room. You know, get in those rooms, y'all. Get in those rooms because that's where those magic happens. And it's like, yeah, you want to be able to show somebody who you are. People want to see who you are. They do. They want to hear your story. You know, they want to hear what is your background and why are you here, your why and stuff like that. You know, and then seeing how you move. You know, I just spoke on a panel, which was like a B Corp panel. B Corps are like mission driven type of businesses, nonprofits and things of that nature. And everybody in that room was that type of person. And even my business, like one of my taglines is storytelling for good. You know, so I'm all about helping people. Of course, I want to make a profit, but I've done so much free work, so much pro bono work in my career. I mean, if you're in the media business, you're gonna do pro bono work. You know, you're gonna, like right now, I work out of a building called the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurs, which is down. You got to come visit me there.
Inshallah, Zuru, absolutely.
Yeah. So actually, I'm gonna invite you on my podcast, and we have it there.
Sure.
So that's a date.
Absolutely.
You know, so what this building is a structure that was built, I want to say 1960, by a gentleman named H.J. Russell. Actually, Georgia State has something in the business program is named after him as well. But anyway, he was a developer, builder, black guy in the Jim Crow South. He brought his first house. He built his first house from the ground up at the age of 16. Like, he got his seed money from shining shoes. So this 16-year-old.
I mean, that's hard work, basically, right?
Just imagine it now.
Yeah.
Me and you doing it. Let's go build a house, and we're doing it. We're not hiring subs. We're actually out there banging the hammer, you know. But every day I walk in that building. So it's a 54,000 square foot building, city block wide on Northside Drive and Fair Street. It's across from Burger King and Pascal's restaurant, about 3 blocks down from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But so it's prime area location. So yeah, anytime I walk in that building, I just feel inspired. Like, what can I do with the resources and everything that I have right now? So yeah, I lost my train of thought. I know I was saying something about the building and working there, but I forgot where that question came from. But yeah, question.
Yes.
Where are you from?
So where am I from?
Yes.
Well, I was born here in Atlanta. My dad is from New Delhi, India. My mom is from Pakistan, Karachi, Pakistan.
Okay, copy.
Fortunately, my mom passed away in 2016.
Sorry.
But my dad's still alive, so I'm trying to visit him I'm always trying to be in his presence because and he's 76. I'm in my 30s, so big age gap, right? So it's like, hey, let me spend as much time as I can because I don't know how much time I have left.
Yes, my brother, please do that. I lost my mom in 2021 and lost dad in 2004. So yes, you're doing the right thing.
I mean, I tried to do that with my mom to the best of my ability when I was working at Colgate. Because in my early part of my career, I worked at Colgate for from 2014 to 2017. And I was actually
Colgate the college or Colgate the
toothbrush company.
Toothbrush, okay.
Toothbrush, toothpaste,
Copy.
Ajax soap, soft soap, Speed Stick. They have all of that. Tom's of Maine.
Okay.
So, I mean, like, they have these portfolio of companies. And my role over there was mainly setting up global shared service centers. So I was actually going to, let's say, for example, I would be in Mexico, right? I would transition activities from Atlanta to Mexico City, right? Because I could speak multiple languages. That's what helped me get into that role, I would say partially. The other piece was, how do I move activities from, let's say, Belgium into Poland or Spain to Poland, or if I have accounting and finance functions, how do I move them to Mumbai, right? So I would focus on what's known as the credit to cash or order to cash stream. There were a couple other streams inside of the business too, known as procure to pay or P2P, and record to report, which would be all your treasury type like functions. So that's where if the company's making money, where are we investing that money, right? Are we putting it into the stock market? Are we putting it into XYZ function? How are we, what kind of return are we getting for our pension holders or 401k accounts, all that stuff. So that's happening within the company. And that's what Record to Report does. Also, they do reporting out to Wall Street.
Okay.
Because it's a publicly held and traded company.
Nice.
So my role was, how do I consolidate all of our processes across the entire world? I touched, 22 different subsidiaries of Colgate? I think $20+ million in savings.
Nice.
Because what happened was we had to reduce headcount in all of the corresponding cities, right? Belgium, Madrid, Barcelona, you name it, whatever city was in the portfolio of companies, we had to consolidate and move those activities in the respective centers of excellence. So one would be, for example, Poland, one would be Mumbai, one would be Philippines, one would be, no worries, and one would be inside of Mexico City. So because I spoke Spanish, Urdu, Hindi, and a couple other the Romance languages, it just made sense.
Nice. So you got to travel to these countries?
Yes, I actually lived overseas for about 2.5 years, 2 years, and that's where I picked up some more languages. Alhamdulillah. So that made my life very interesting. A lot of people were like, "Okay, what in the world are you doing?" Like, I'm basically an executive for a company.
That's awesome.
So I got lucky in a sense that I was in the right moment, the right time, and I had this opportunity that basically was thrown onto my plate, and I just took advantage of it.
Nice.
And that's basically a little bit of my story, but I think we'll hold on to that for your pod.
Right.
Coming back to Natural Media Leaders Media, so you formed the company, in 2013?
No, 11.
2011. So after you took your Shahada, or before?
Ooh. Before.
I mean,
Before. I took it April 1. I took Shahada April 1, 2011. I did this 2 February.
Got it. And then the Clayton County contract happened in
2016.
So it took about 5 years.
Yeah.
And that was the first
to get a real. I mean, I had one-offs here and there,
Got it.
$500, $200, stuff like
So
that.
then here's a question, because a lot of entrepreneurs would be probably asking this, is like they probably have a bunch of one-off jobs. How do you figure out a way to get consistent work?
Yeah, that is what I'm still working on, my brother. So, and that's interesting, because that kind of brings me to now. That brings me to 2024. I aforementioned that I lost my mom in 2021, and I've been spiraling, brother. I've been on a hamster wheel of life since that, and I had a good friend of mine really, really lean into me and just ask me, like, we got the same name. It's so weird. He's like, bro, what's up with you, man? What's going on? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you've been kind of like, kind of the same for the last few years. What's up? It's like, well, he's like, man, that's an excuse. I'm like, yeah, well, he's like, man, that's an excuse, man. What's up? What's going on? Like, and I'm like, yo, I don't know. And he's like, bro, get some help. So September 3rd, I went to a mental health counselor, and it changed the game for me. It really, I was able to let go, unpack of some things that were holding me back, essentially. And, fast forward now, I just feel great. I feel great. I feel happy, and now, to answer your question, I'm strategizing with my company now. I'm in a strategy execution mode. Like my services, my number one service is recurring content campaigns. So that is what I'm targeting with people, where I can help them make a content calendar for their business where they have consistent content. And what that does for me is now, you contract me every month, you're paying me $500, $2,000, $3,000, whatever our agreement is. And that is what will give me that consistent money and stability. So to answer your question, it's like you got to continuously prospect every day. And you know this from sales. You won't have a pipeline if you don't prospect.
It's the same thing with the podcast, right?
Yeah.
I have a list of roughly, I think 500 entrepreneurs or so, and I'm just constantly reaching out to them every single day. Hey, would you love to do a podcast? We can talk about your business, and then I'm sharing what I'm doing on YouTube, because then that becomes my public portfolio.
Absolutely.
Right? And then from there, I can then say, okay, hey, let's promote your business, and then you concurrently also, promote me, because in a way, I'm doing all this legwork right now. So then that way, for me, I think my mind is more so, if I can do this for 30 years, unequivocally, I will get better every single time.
Every single time.
And every single episode that comes out, I've progressively learned something better, or I've made something better within Diary of a Muslim Entrepreneur, which is this very podcast, right?
Yes, I love that name.
And if you look at the very first episode we did with Mushir Ahmed, actually there were about 5 other episodes before that I haven't even released. And it's like, okay, how can I make this better? How can I make this better? Initially, I was using GoPros, and I realized actually the GoPros are a horrible camera compared to what I already have.
Sure.
Right? And it's like, okay, how can I progressively make it better and better and better? Oh, I learned lighting composition. I learned something else. I learned something else. I learned something else. And just now all of it's stacking up. It's like, oh, now it has outsized returns, and now the podcast is where you see it as today.
Yes.
And this growth is, my mind is more so, okay, how can I get this from, let's say, a couple hundred subscribers to 100,000 to 1 million to 5 billion, right? And what are the things I need to learn? What are my limiting beliefs that I currently have that I need to break, right? At each and every corresponding step, because what may work at 100 may not work at 1,000, may not work at 100,000, may not work at 1 million, and they're all progressively different. And understanding which phase you're at, and applying people who are close to you in that similar phase, can then go like, okay, I understand how you got here. Let's do it together, right?
Sure.
And then you create a cohort of people or a community, right? And the community then propels you forward, right?
Yes, 100%.
And I guess that's the whole purpose of Islam too, because that's exactly how it started too, right?
Yeah.
It started with Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his wife, Khadija bint Khuwaylid, radiyallahu anhu. And then from there, it just spread like wildfire from Mecca to Medina to the entire world.
Yes.
And I think utilizing the concepts from Islam in our businesses actually helps us grow faster, because sometimes we just do things because we think they're going to work. But if we don't bring Islam back in, it's sort of like, okay, we're almost like an aimless ship, right? We're going in a direction and we don't know. But when you bring the religion back in, it's like, oh, wow, okay, I see how the Prophet ﷺ dealt with this particular problem. Or I saw how, let's say, my brother Daniel is dealing with a problem, right?
Yes.
So it's like, okay, how can I learn from his stuff?
Sure.
And that's where I'm at least with this pod right now. But in terms of your business, so you're now getting consistent referral business as well as you're reaching out to businesses, I'm guessing.
Yes.
And how are you finding those businesses? Are you just scraping a list of data off of Google Maps, or like how is the data coming from? Where are you finding these businesses to go out and help?
So as far as cold leads, I have it. My source would be my library card. Unexpected source. So if you go to any, well, I don't know about any website, but if you go to Fulton County and DeKalb County library website, there is a drop down that says references. On that drop down that says references, you'll find a company called Data Axle. Data Axle is formerly Reference USA. And Data Axle is a database for all businesses in the United States. So what this does is you could put in that industry's NAICS code. You familiar with NAICS code?
Yeah, I'm familiar with NAICS codes. It's basically a code from the federal government. It's usually six numbers.
Exactly.
And basically what that NAICS codes does is basically categorizes your business.
Exactly.
Right? And then with that NAICS code, you can then, if you're minority certified, whether it's through the Georgia Minority Supplier Development Council,
Yes, sir.
or even through the Small Business Administration, the SBA, I think because that's a disadvantaged business, right? Or if you get 8A certified once you have 2 years of revenue. So it's like there are other avenues, but if we go back to the minority side, right, you can then utilize that to then partner with other companies as a supplier. And then what you can then say is, we provide XYZ service, and if you need this service, you can award us a certain amount, because usually there's an allocation for every single company out there.
Yeah.
Set-asides just for minority and small disadvantaged businesses.
Yep.
And I'm guessing that's where DataX comes into play.
Yes. Thank you for that. That was that was a good explanation of NAICS codes. Sure. So you put in, let's just say, for me as a video producer, so I Googled it, I ChatGPT, what businesses utilize video production the most, right? And they gave me e-commerce, so like online retail stores, somebody that sells plants or microphones online or something like that. So I put in that NAICS code, so it spits me out as many businesses as I can withstand. But the filters is where it gets exciting. You know what I mean? Because you could see their revenue. So if it's Daniel's microphones that you sell online, I can see, oh, he made 1.2 million last year in revenue. Oh, he spent 50,000 in expenditures. Oh, he has 10 employees. I can see if you're an MBE. I can see if you're female owned. I can see all of that.
So just to clarify, MBE, what does that stand for?
Minority Business Enterprise.
Got it. Okay.
You know, you can see and you can check. You can check, all right, I just want a list of minority businesses. And it filter it and it spits it out. Usually it's gonna spit out the phone number, potentially a website. It gives you the name, the owner's name, or whoever the managing partners are, what have you, in most cases. So yeah, that's one. I just recently made a list 2 days ago. I just went through my phone. I have like over 1,200 contacts on my daggone phone, right, over the years. And I'm like just scrolling. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna reach out to him. I came up with about 28 names. You know what I mean?
Wow.
That I feel like if I reach back out and reacquaint,
it could lead to another lead, right?
It could lead to another lead and or a referral.
Actually, one of the things that I did in order to figure out for some of my other businesses, because outside of Dome, there were a couple others. One of the things we did was we would go to, let's say, Google Maps or Yahoo Maps or whatever kind of mapping software that exists, and we would scrape all the data. And what I'll do is I'll actually show you how I do it. You'll go like, holy crap, this saves me so much time. We scraped, let's say, for example, we want to do, I want to set up some calls with doctors, dentists, right? We can pull a list of dentists here in the Atlanta area or in the metro area, whatever is suitable for you. And then based off of that, we can then just call them up, right? Cold leads. And then over time, they become warm leads. And then eventually they come, you know, red hot.
Red hot, baby. Yeah, man, because it's red hot when that deposit hit.
Yeah. And that's actually encouraging. So I guess once you got that first contract with Clayton County and you got that first paycheck, walk me through the mental and the emotions.
$3,200 a month, man. I was at $3,200 a month from them for 11 months. Yeah.
And how much work did you have to put into that contract?
Minimal.
So when you say minimal, it's like, are we talking about?
I set up 2 or 3 times a month.
So when you say set up 2 or 3,
I set up to do a production.
Just like this?
Just like this, potentially. You know, whenever they had events or something like that, I would set up, you know, our whole production and whatnot. But it was easy money. You know, meaning the labor. Definitely, I had big margins. I mean, I had about 3 or 4 people that I had to pay out of that, but it was well worth it. And it also gave me the peace of mind to go out and grab more business or grab some equipment or, because you're always
So
stepping up.
once that contract ended, were you able to secure another contract to keep going, or
Yeah,
was there
actually,
a lull? And like, I was like, are you panicking again? Like, walk me to the mental state here.
that space, yes. I know about the lows. But no, actually, the lady from Clayton County moved on to another space, and she called me right back up.
Okay.
Relationships.
So it came back down to the
Yeah, she
relationships
moved to a
again.
business out in Birmingham, Alabama, and next thing you know, another recurring contract, just based off of what their needs were. Their needs were a little different. They wanted more marketing business, more marketing videos, but yeah, and then that ended up ending. But dealing with the lulls is the toughest part. You mentioned it a second ago where you said my limiting mindset. This is where everything lives, man. This is where you're either wealthy or you're poor. It's in this dome, y'all. It's in here, man. Dome, right?
Yeah.
Like your physical.
Diary of a Muslim Entrepreneur.
Yeah, man. Wow, I like that. I like that. But yeah, I mean, that's where, like I said, since my transformation, going to a mental health counselor, that's where I've been. And there's nothing that comes out of my mind right now that is not positive, that is not uplifting. There's like nothing. I had a lot of bad self-talk, and that will lead you to just that. If you're thinking about, oh, I don't have no money, then you're not gonna have no money. It sounds simple, and it sounds like, man, get out of here. I just need to think about having money. Yes, but it's constant.
Yeah.
It has to be constant. It's just like praying. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, because for me, I mean, every time I've had lows in my life, I've always came back to prayer, and that actually has helped a lot in my case. Because like after while praying salah, the last rakah, while in sujood, I'm making du'a in some cases, and that du'a, I'm asking Allah for the world and everything in between, and then for good mental health, because that's the thing that a lot of us don't even ask for. I mean, if we go pray 5 times a day and you're asking Allah in every single salah, hey, oh Allah, please give me, a steady mental health,
sound mind.
right? A sound
Yes.
mind, a clean heart, a qalbun salim is what they call it, right? And a couple other things to help me excel in life and become something that, I can be a beacon of hope for others, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what I do, at least. But maybe your idea, your process is a little different. For me, it's always through a salah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's different, but it's the same. It's rooted. The universe, Allah. This for me, that's the same thing. I hear people use universe, God, a lot. Like it's all the same, in my opinion. But yeah, I pray. I pray. And I mean, you have to prayer without action. You definitely have to take action. You definitely have to be diligent in what you're doing, and you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in that crazy idea that will work. You like you just said, those numbers you rattled off to me. 5 billion, whatever. Yes, I believe you. You can do it. Go.
Inshallah. We'll see.
Inshallah. Yeah, but it's. All I'm saying is, brother, that anything in life is obtainable if you believe it. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people, that's where they fail.
I mean, I would also say they want to go from 1 to 1 million instead of taking the baby steps to going 1 to 100, 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 5,000, right? They don't want to take the baby steps. They just want to find the shortcut that gets them to the end goal. But the problem is that you have to do those baby steps in order to get to the end goal.
Yeah.
There is no, you got to do the work.
You got to do the work.
You got to do the work. You have to grind through it, unfortunately.
Yeah,
and there's no shortcut unless
There's no shortcut.
unless
There's none.
the only shortcut is creating relationships that hopefully maybe leapfrog you.
But even that is not necessarily a shortcut.
It's not a shortcut.
I feel like that none of these meetings are by coincidence. This is a law, like these guys now.
Yeah.
He's puppeting us. You feel me? Like there's no I don't believe that I just bump into somebody and then we have this magnificent relationship with it. No, that's my thoughts. I want to bump into. I want it to be here. You know what I mean? I want to keep spreading the word on what I'm doing and getting my name out there and and growing. You know, so this is not chance.
Yeah.
You know, I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe in luck. It's work. It's definitely work, and most of it, in my opinion, being around. Like I said, I'm 50, so it's like I've tried a lot of different ways.
And I think it's also like the motivation factor, right? For some people, they have the initial burst of just being motivated, but because they don't see the returns come back so quickly, they just get demotivated and they don't want to do it.
Sure.
And I guess one of the ways that
Consistency.
I figured out my motivation was actually through a guy named Alex Hormozy. He's very famous online, and then he mentioned there was a thing he mentioned which sort of like changed this perspective or frame of mind for me, which was like, okay, you put out a piece of content and 100 people looked at it. It wasn't 1,000, it wasn't 1,000,000, whatever. You at least had 100 people. Imagine these people were in a room in front of you.
Yeah.
100 people is a lot of people in a room, right? Now I'm getting to a point where it's like, oh, now it's 400, 500, 1,000. It's slowly growing, right? Each episode that's being released on Friday, I'm trying to release them every Friday at 9 a.m. in the morning.
You're not trying, brother. You're doing it.
Yeah.
You're doing
So
it.
eventually the goal is, hey, how do we get to 1,000 subscribers? That's goal number one, right? And then we even have a giveaway just to incentivize people to subscribe, right? Because then we're thinking, okay, what's the long run? Oh, we do another giveaway at 5. We do another giveaway at 10, and then at 25, 50, 100, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what are the things that we can give value to the individual who's actually watching the show and to each other, right? Because we're building a community in a way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so that was my mindset for actually Diary of a Muslim Entrepreneur. It was like, oh, there are a bunch of other entrepreneurs in different spaces. Like, for example, in media, there are not that many Muslim brothers. To be totally honest, there aren't many. There's very, very few. It's a consolidated group of people, probably. Then if you look at people in the green space, there are very few companies there. So that we're talking about like water filtration systems or like,
Solar.
Yeah,
solar
you
panels,
could
stuff like
go
that.
solar. Anything in the green space, right? And then if you look at other industries, we're all fragmented, but maybe this pod can be a uniting force of good in some way, shape, or form. Where hey, we can bring the media people with these companies that are starting up,
Yeah.
right? And then we can help them grow. Because the one thing I've noticed, at least in my life, is that if I help other people grow, other people will help me grow, and then therefore I will achieve even more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
And if I can
100%.
spit some game today, maybe that game will help a kid tomorrow, and then hopefully that'll help them. Because I've noticed also that some people are, I guess you could say, vindictive to a degree. Like, I don't want somebody to be more successful than me. I think no,
Gatekeeping, man,
or
not
gatekeeping. And
sharing.
I think that's actually backwards, because that actually pulls you back from growing even faster. Because it's sort of like, do you want to grow? You can go fast alone, but as a team, as a group of people, you can go much farther, right?
Yes, sir.
It's just, I guess this is where limiting beliefs were, right? And when I was much younger, I would think, hey, that way was the right way. The negative self-talk, or like, oh, I must be right. You don't have to always be right. No. I think when you get older, you begin to relax all these ideologies that you had, and it's like, oh, you know what? That was holding me back. Now I need to change this and move forward. But it ultimately comes down to the individual, right?
Yeah.
Like, do I want to change? Do I recognize that I need to make a change? And that's like a whole different conversation in itself.
That is a whole different conversation, and it's ego too. Like, a lot of people are ego driven. You know, social media. If you jump on social media, it will have your mind.
So what's driving you to do this business?
Oh, I love it. I get an adrenaline rush when I complete a project, right? A challenging project. So just yesterday, this lady out the blue, she called me and she's like, I a project. I don't know if you're familiar with Judge Hatchett, Judge Glenda Hatchett. She used to be on like
sounds familiar. She's like late night judge TV,
yeah,
like
right,
sort of like
right,
Judge
right.
Judy or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. So they were at the podcast studio, and the lady apparently is working with these two young girls, and she wanted that podcast edited. Oh, but I don't have the sound, this timestamps, and here's the transcript of what I want you to pull out. So now I got an hour and a half of a podcast that I gotta find 3 clips out of that. So basically a 50-second clip. One was like 40 seconds, the other one was like a minute. So I gotta scour this whole daggone thing looking for this well, the reason that, whatever that transcript was or the dialogue was. But I like that. I like the challenge. At first, I was like, oh, I don't know. But once I got into it, and that's how I am. If initially, I'm like, oh, okay, you might tell me an idea. I'm like, yeah. I start thinking about all the work that's involved. But once you plug me in and I get going, like once I plugged that hard drive in, and the hard drive was only compatible to Macs. I don't have a Mac, right? So I had to go to the center that has a Mac. So now that's a whole thing, right? So now I got to drive 13 miles, and I'm hoping that's the case, that it wasn't just not reading on my PC that I only read on Mac. So boom, it read in Mac. Boom, all right, cool. So now I'm looking at the thing. The framing was terrible. Like, but that's not my fault. I didn't shoot it. I'm just editing. I'm just saying the critique. The guy's arm right here is cut off. It was just framed poorly. Like I said, that's an aesthetic problem. But my point is, I love to do this. It's fun. At the end of the day, like I can do this for, especially editing. Once I plug in, I love it. Especially if I got a good quality machine that's not lagging. Yeah, I love it. I love finding new things. I love looking up stuff on YouTube and how to do certain things, like how to use my green screen effectively, or how, like, I learned how to do that Ken Burns effect where the thing is moving or the screen is like moving with keyframes. I don't know if DaVinci has that or not, but I know Adobe does. But yeah, I love what I do and I'm passionate about it. And I also want to help people grow their business and what they're doing using visuals. So yeah, it's fun. And I'm going to make a boatload of money with this.
Absolutely, inshallah. So a couple questions here. Are you leveraging AI in your business today? And in what ways are you leveraging AI in your business?
Yeah, definitely. I guess the 2 main ones right now is like you got Opus, and ChatGPT. Like definitely ChatGPT. Like I write still, but I don't write like that.
Actually, one of the solutions to what you were mentioning to me about like you have to find these certain sections within a video to clip them out. Actually, one of the things that I was doing was, like, as an example, I would go ahead and upload the video to YouTube as an unlisted video. Once it's uploaded, I would go to like a YouTube transcript on Google, find a YouTube transcript, pull that transcript, put it into like a Google Sheet or a Google Doc, turn that into a PDF, dump that PDF back into ChatGPT, get GPT to read it automatically, give me the sections that match up with this, and then I'll already have the timestamps, and then I can just go to Adobe or DaVinci, cut it up, and I'm actually there way faster than me manually looking for it.
Right.
It's like, because that's a solution.
That's definitely a solution.
Rather than going through the entire thing, I can do other things while that stuff is being done in the background. It's just like,
absolutely.
Just a maybe a quick unlock, a quick hack here that can hopefully.
That's Now that you said that, I was like, wow, yeah, that makes sense. They got that.
I mean, because that's what we're doing with all of our stuff. We're using. Well, the idea was initially that we would do everything in Adobe. Problem was okay, let's go ahead and bootstrap this business first. Let's do everything in DaVinci. Once we've learned that system, it's not too hard to translate over editing software to another software, right? Once we do that, we'll start leveraging Autopod, which is basically an automatic podcast clipping software, which will do multicam setups. So like if I have one facing me, one facing you, I have multicam. and then I can designate who are the speakers, and then the system will automatically cut it out.
That's
Right?
crazy.
And then that way, I don't actually need an editor, right? But rather, my editor is going to be more important in terms of doing short form. So I would need somebody who's going to do short form, clean up the Opus clips or the little short clips. I think Opus to a degree is helpful. It's a starting point, but it doesn't get you that 10%, that 15%, that elevated to the next level.
Sure.
Right? Because everybody's using it.
Yeah.
So now
At
that
this point,
human
yeah.
touch would then push it to the next level, right? Maybe adding additional visuals, adding additional things that would maybe make the message a bit more concise.
Some B-roll and stuff like
Right.
that. Yeah.
So
And they do a lot of misspelling too.
so you have to go
definitely
through
you
it,
gotta
and
go through
you
that.
still have to go through it.
You
It's just,
should.
and in some cases, some people are just dumping the video, whatever it is, right?
Right.
And especially if you have somebody who's speaking a different language or in a different accent, it's even harder,
Yeah.
right? Because then it's like, oh, the system will probably translate it from an English type like accent, like American English. From that, it's like it'll sound totally different, and therefore it'll interpret it as a different word altogether,
Sure.
right? And that's where I guess AI does come into play, where like context severely matters, right? If it understood the context, it wouldn't maybe put that particular word there, right?
Right. With knowing your audience
Yeah,
and things of that nature. Yeah, definitely.
yeah. I mean, because like if I say, Subhanallah, right? I'm
Oh, yeah,
pretty
they're gonna tear that
sure
up. They're gonna tear that up.
it's gonna be a little bit messed up. But I guess, do you have any other questions that I can help you answer for you? I mean, like I'm here for you at the end of the day. What businesses, what ideas do you have on your mind? Where are you? Where's the future going for you?
So, yeah, okay, I got a few actually. So I'm gonna ask you the one question, and then I can tell you a couple of things that I'm doing going into the future. So the question, technical question I would have for you would be: so I have a boatload of hard drives, all type of content on there, and like I always say to myself, it's never stale until you release it, right? Like you said, you got some older podcasts. And my mind is like, yeah, I would still release them. I don't care. It's content, especially with what the people or guests are saying is good stuff. Release it. That's my thing. So yeah, I guess my question is, one of my things is, how do I curate the content that's on my drives and get it out?
Okay.
Without me manually going in on each single one and getting it out.
Got it. So I guess the way I organize and I categorize all my content, once we finish up this, I'll go ahead and show you what I'm doing. Basically, I have a folder dedicated to it, and each one is labeled as to what it is. And why do I do that right after filming a pod? It's so then that way everything's fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
I know exactly what I'm doing and how it's categorized. So like this will be episode number 22, actually. Even though I've only released
Nice.
11.
Yeah.
This is episode number 22, and some of the ones that I have filmed actually will never be released. Why? It's because either the content was really genuinely bad, it was bad advice, it would be bad for the brand,
Sure.
right? So then it's like some of the pieces of content actually don't align with the vision of the company. So why would I want to tarnish my reputation by bringing in a guest that doesn't actually bring in value?
Yes, sir.
And I tell that guest, you know what? I don't think it makes sense to release this episode. I think let's revisit it at a later time. Let's redo this, maybe if we want to, but I don't think it makes sense because when I'm reviewing the footage, I'm looking at it again. It's like there's some executive decisions you have to make,
Absolutely.
right? Because that's in a way that's also curating too, right? But my organizational structure really matters here. If I'm not organized, that means none of my content is organized. Actually, the goal is after transitioning from my 5 terabyte drives to actually build out like a server rack. Because I'm realizing after 20 episodes, I'm already 3 terabytes in out of the 5. I'm like, okay, that means if I shoot another 20, 30, 40 episodes, I got to go get another drive.
Yeah.
Right. If I create a server where all this information is stored and I go up to maybe 200, 3,000 terabytes, something like that, right? That means I can pump out more content. My process flow is much cleaner. As soon as the video is recorded, I put it directly onto the server. The server has everything on it already categorized and labeled. And how long does it take me to categorize something? Not even 5 minutes. Right?
Just when it's fresh, yeah.
Yeah, because everything's fresh. I'm doing it right after the pod's over. And that helps me a lot. All the older stuff, like from my childhood, like I have a folder for certain years. And you'll even see like certain events in every single year already categorized. Why? It's because if I remember, if I just type into the search tab of that master drive, I'll be able to say, okay, I remember this event. It was going to be like pictures from Casablanca. I'll just type in Casa and bang, right there. If I say, okay, Pakistan, 2005, right? I'll just put Pakistan. I'll see all the folders related to that, and I'll see which ones have the dates associated with them.
Yeah, you're hella organized, bro.
I have to be, because otherwise, if I'm not organized and it's all a mess, it means that my process or my system that I'm creating for me to pump out as many pods will get incredibly slow.
Yeah.
It'll slow down to a snail's pace. I'm trying to reduce as much friction in my business, right?
Yeah.
If I'm increasing the friction by not being organized, that's my fault.
Right.
Right? And even my cousins, they'll look at some of my old family photos. It's like, they call me Daniel Bhai because that means brother. I was like, Daniel Bhai, it's so organized. I'm like, yeah, it's because I want to be able to find the stuff when I need it.
Right.
And if I take time now rather than if I had to do that process over and over and over, I'm taking away time from spending with my family, spending on other things. I don't want to waste my time. My time is more precious than anything else in the world, right? If somebody says, hey, Daniel, I'm going to pay you $500 an hour. Yeah, okay, fine. I'll entertain that. But I'm not going to, I mean, if I'm putting $500 an hour on my own time for myself, that means I'm losing out on $500 that I could potentially earn somewhere else, right? I'm taking time away from something. It's almost like if one of the things I learned for myself, which was, let me reduce Netflix. Let me reduce, watching any of these third-party apps or videos or movies and things like that. Why? Because this is my obsession today, and I want it to be my obsession for the next 20 years.
Nice.
I'm looking at it from the perspective of, okay, if I keep at it, that it will yield outsized returns for me.
Yeah.
I will become known for entrepreneurship. That's what I want to be known for.
Yeah.
And then at some point, the goal is, hey, if I can help your business or let's say one of my uncle's businesses in the automotive sector, or maybe my aunt's business, in whatever other sector, right? I'm able to then do that because I have an audience already pre-built. They're leveraging my audience. I have value, inherent value there, right? I can do sponsorship reads. And I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I filmed a video in this room. Took me 3 minutes to shoot it on my iPhone, get it shot in cinematic mode, get the audio directly off the podcasting deck, dump it into the software. In less than 5 minutes, I already had an edited piece, 2 minutes, right there, ready to go. Why? Because my workflow was tight, right? Yeah. My workflow has to be tight. My organization has to be tight. These two things are there, then I can scale so much faster. That's why I shot 21 episodes or more, actually, and if you count the stuff from even further back. So, I mean, like, if I can reliably set up, like, how long did it take to set up this? It didn't take long at all.
No.
Right? Because it was already set up. It was ready to go. Deck is there. All the mics are already plugged in. I can sit in here and have a conversation. One of my next conversations that I'm going to have is actually with a company called For Earth. And they do water filtration systems. I'm actually going to take some of these the lights and whatever else, go to the facility and see how they're building out these containers where they're filtrating water for manufacturing plants. Because you need clean water to do manufacturing. You can't use dirty water with particulates, because the minute you do that, you're going to either start corroding metal, you're going to start corroding other, like whether it's aluminum corrodes. It doesn't rust, but it does corrode. You have iron, you have steel, you have other kinds of metals, and they do different things. And this is where, again, Diary of a Muslim Entrepreneur comes into play. It's like, hey, you're an entrepreneur. That doesn't mean you're just stuck on one subject matter. Right. Entrepreneurship covers the whole gamut.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And now if I'm just narrowing it down to just Muslims, okay, that means that I'm not interviewing everybody. I might not interview Mark Cuban, right? I might not interview some of these really, really big guys. But that's because I decided to have a narrow focus. Because for a Muslim business owner running a business, I mean, that just gave me the direction I needed, right? Because originally the name of the podcast was supposed to be Halal Nation.
I like that too.
That's very broad, though.
Yeah.
What does that cover? I mean,
right.
It's
not as specific.
If I tell you, welcome to the Halal Nation podcast, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? Now, if I say Diary of a Muslim Entrepreneur, okay, we're hearing about the stories of Muslim entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I know exactly what the topic's about, right?
Yeah.
So there are other shows that are supposed to come out after this that are in the pipeline. I have one of the things I did was I actually road mapped out the journey for 10 years for this business alone.
Love it.
And
yeah, strategy, man. That's strategy.
I mean, that came from my corporate background more than likely, right? Corporate strategy, okay, this is where the company's starting at. Which one of these avenues do I want to pick? And I stick to it. I got to stick to it for at least 2 years. I can't say no. And like, there are some days where it's like, I don't want to shoot a pod.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't feel good. I didn't go do my workout. But I had to still show up. And if you just show up consistently over and over and over again, then you get to those outsized returns. It's sort of like going to the gym every single day.
Right.
A person that goes 3 days a week and doesn't work on the right things will never achieve success. They'll be stuck there for the next 5 years. But if they say, okay, in this particular season of my life, I'm going to focus on walking 10,000 steps a day, every single day, and I'm going to bump it up 500 each and every single day. And if I do that by the end of 3 months, probably I'll be, 500 times 30 days gives me, 15,000 additional steps. So at the end of it, I should be doing it 25,000, right? At the end of 3 months. And I should have lost maybe a certain amount of weight. I don't know what, but my body composition would have changed.
Absolutely.
Right? My fat content might have dropped. My water content would have went out more than likely because I need to consume more water to be able to breathe, to oxygenate, right? So I'm thinking from that perspective. It's like, okay, I just need to show up every single day. Rain or shine, doesn't matter. And creating an environment which is frictionless for me is what's going to help me achieve that.
Yes,
so
sir.
now if, like in this particular, where we're at right now, the warehouse in the back, I'll pump out after every salah, I'll pump out like maybe 10, 15, 20 push-ups. It's like I'm already on the ground. Why not just pump it out? The environment's there for me, and I'm creating these like reward systems in my mind for me to achieve the next level.
Yes.
So that's where I'm at. Okay. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, no, it did. Organization is the key.
And it will take time. I mean, think about it this way. If you take the time now and you do this now, in the next, let's say you focus 2-3 days on it, right? 3 days of just dedicated work on this one thing, organizing it all, right? I can double check, or maybe you have somebody who's also looking at it with you because they know what's in the content. Right. The problem is that since you filmed it, you have it stuck in your brain, but nobody else has viewed the content, so therefore you cannot categorize it properly. Right? And until you build a cadence with somebody else sitting right next to you, it's very difficult. Or maybe you do it on a Zoom call with somebody, and then they understand, oh, I think this is where this goes. Let me go ahead and put this aside for categorization review. Or maybe we start tagging these things. In my case, my tag is the folder, right? Yeah. So organization is key to answer your question.
So as far as so one of the things I'm proud about too, I have an ebook called How to Shoot Professional Video with Your Smartphone. So going forward in the future, I'm looking to do that more, especially with like 40 and over type of people who don't know how to operate all the settings and whatnots that are in these cameras. Yeah, that's one thing. Go grab that, naturalleadersmedia.com. How to shoot pro video with your smartphone. And then I got a feature film coming out, man, called Cut. That should be coming, inshallah, I would say end of October. We're in the final stages of post-production where we're doing, the coloring is done. Sound design? Yeah, we're still working on a little bit of sound design. We're about to cut a trailer. Yeah, and get that all in the works.
See, actually, that's actually the next steps for this particular pod is how do we get this even more cinematic? How do we start introducing more sound design? How do we add in additional shots that we don't have today? Right? So these are the next stages I can see in my mind for the pod itself too.
Yeah, well, talk to me, man. If you have any, we definitely can talk offline.
Sure.
But there are definitely some things I can share with
Sure,
you as well
of course.
that can help you with the design. We're also up. I have a meeting with. I can't say names just yet, but a known family. We're looking to tell their story and create a TV show. So that's in the mix. We're supposed to have that meeting like top of December, and we already have like some LOIs, letters of intent, with some high-level producers that have already produced big-time stuff.
Mashallah.
So, yeah, that's super exciting. I just love the track that I'm on right now, man. I'm in a very good, clear headspace, and yeah, I'm here. I'm living this abundant life, man.
Alhamdulillah, that's awesome.
Alhamdulillah.
So what I'll do is in the show notes, in the show description, I'll go ahead and leave all your contact information. So if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Call me, man. Pick up the phone and call me, man. I'm old school when it comes to that. Just, yeah, I like to talk. I don't mind talking, you know. If you got to text. You got to email. But if you want to talk to me, call me.
Sure. And what I'll do is I'll leave all your socials down below as well. So then that way people can follow you. They can subscribe to you. And I think you have a couple of interesting documentaries about also. Like I think you had one with True Detergents. Yeah. The founders of True Detergents who are Muslims.
Yes.
So definitely check that out. I think that
Sharia law versus capitalism.
Oh wow! So you also have
That's the same. That's the one you're talking about.
Oh wow!
That's what it's called. Yeah.
Sharia law versus capitalism.
Right.
And that's an interesting topic in itself, right? Because then how do you structure your deals, right? How do you not deal with interest? How do you avoid these certain things that is okay in the Western world, but from the Islamic standpoint, it's totally different. I think that's actually we're planning on releasing a pod or a series on Islamic finance itself, because that's a topic of. I mean, my background's finance, so and Islamic finance is another topic in itself. But I think what I want to do is I want to bring in Islamic scholars from the different madhabs, right? Because if you look at somebody from like a Hanafi versus a Hanbali versus a Shafi'i versus a Maliki, they all have different approaches in terms of how they deal with Islamic finance. And although I think that the dalails of the Hanafi madhab are probably the most strong and they're probably the most expansive, the rulings and the laws that came out of that are like just how you approach Islamic finance is fundamentally like something that's not taught in schools. It's not something that people talk about. Even our imams don't know about it because they're mainly practicing they're practicing in the sense that they know about everything related to family matters, but they don't really give you information about businesses or like how did the Prophet ﷺ do business, right?
Yeah.
It's just like these and I mentioned in a previous pod before, there's a book in Sahih Muslim, in the books of Hadith, called Kitabul Buyu, which is the book of business transactions, actually detailing how the Prophet ﷺ did business. And I'm probably going to have a series on that as well, like breaking it down.
As you're talking, I'm going to give you quite a few names and numbers that you could reach out to that are high-level business people, and I would think they would love to come on the show, man. Give you some more guests.
Of course. So it was a pleasure. Thank you so much, my brother.
Definitely. Yes, sir.